and welcome. My name is Teresa from the blog and YouTube channel foodtoflower.com, where I share all about simple living on our European farm, homesteading how-tos, and recipes from scratch. Please hit the subscribe button to never miss a new video. Today I'm sharing with you a day in the life. I very often do snippets of my days, but I hardly ever do one consistent day like I did here. We had just come back from a trip to the city, which is one of my favorite things about living on a homestead in Europe, is that big major European cities are a stone throws away. So just a couple of hours in the car and you're in a metropolitan city, which is so fun. We had come back home, and one thing I realized I really missed were little coffee shop mornings or breaks. And so I decided to not get down about that, but recreate my own. So I set up my own little city coffee table and chairs. I made my favorite green tea, and I even picked up some pastries when we were on our way out of the city and brought them back home, and I enjoyed a cup while the baby was napping. My general philosophy of life is to not get down about things that you feel like you really want but can't have. I always try to look for the positives in my current situation, and let me tell you, I am not perfect at this, and I'm always learning and finding new ways that I can do this. But little tiny things like a 30-minute sit down in a beautiful spot with my favorite drink and a snack just makes all the difference. And I did not miss my city coffee shop mornings anymore. It was actually much more peaceful because I was listening to the birds sing and my baby was napping right there. After Edwin got up, we went and did our chores and checked on all the animals. Micah and my older son were out for the day. They were running some errands, picking up feed for animals and other things, and so it was just the baby and me. I had recently gotten this nifty little carrier. Edwin is in a stage where he likes to be held a lot, but also likes to be put down a lot, and that just does not work with the conventional carrier that we have. I actually surprisingly love this one. It's not for long periods of time, but it is so much easier to carry him on my hip when he just wants to be held for a little bit, and I also love how easy it is to put on. Here we are checking our meat birds and our little baby turkeys over here. Every year we keep 100 meat birds. This year we're actually doing 200. We graze them on our fields once they're a little bit bigger. We keep them indoors when they're small. And then we have all of our own chicken meat, which has been a super fun upgrade to our homestead that we added on last year. Here we are in our garden. The beans are pretty much done. So are these watermelons. I was really impressed that we actually grew watermelons. We're in zone 7A, I believe, and watermelons do not very often grow here, at least not on like little gardens with without heated greenhouses and such. But ours did great, as did our tomatoes and peppers this year. We've had a huge harvest, and I spend so much time preserving and canning everything, which I will be showing you in the next video, so stay tuned. After we checked on all the animals, it was time to get back home and prepare lunch. The boys had gotten back from town and everybody was starting to get really hungry. I keep lunches really simple, which is pretty usual in America. However, here in Europe, in Czech Republic specifically, it is very unusual to have a simple lunch. The traditional thing to do is to have your main meal at lunch. So people will serve just a giant meal for lunch with like meat and sauce and vegetables and just all the things, just like a giant meal. And this does not really work for us for a couple of reasons. First of all, we're usually busy. I'm either working on the computer on my ghost blogging agency, or I'm working on my blog or YouTube channel, or I'm doing stuff with the animals or with the children. We just live a really full life. And I don't really have time in the middle of the day to stop everything I'm doing and cook a giant meal. So here is my go-to. I always have fresh sourdough bread that I baked at home on hand. I bake it every single Monday so that we have enough for the whole week. And we always have some bone broth going on the stove from a roast chicken or from other bones that we have on hand from a previous meal. So I will put together a soup and some sandwiches for the kids. Once again, I think this is pretty usual in the US, but here where we live, people are always a little bit shocked to see how minimal our lunches are. I find that if I want to get anything done though, I really do have to keep our life pretty minimal. Maybe I get a little bit more creative on the weekends, but this is our weekday strategy. I will have a full video coming out with all of my soup recipes. One of my all-time favorite things about Czech cuisine are soups. Czechs make amazing soup. We love soup. Sometimes people even eat soup for breakfast. Soup for lunch is a very traditional thing. It's usually followed by another main course, but people do love it and pretty much eat it any time of day. And there are so many different delicious recipes that I never came across when I lived in the US for all those years. So I will be sharing all of them with you. A bunch of them are really easy to make and they're just perfect for fall. So stay tuned. Please hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss it when I post it. We are currently in the time of year where all the produce we eat comes from our own garden, and I absolutely love it. I have such a sense of accomplishment when I know that everything I am serving my family has been grown in our garden and harvested by us, and I know exactly what went into every single step of it. It's just such a delight, and of course the taste is just amazing. If you want to know a little bit more about our garden and the kind of harvest we had, I just did a whole video on that. I'm going to link it here above. One thing we are still learning how to juggle is the balance between home life and farm life, between spending time with our kids and doing projects with the kids versus doing projects at the farm that we absolutely need to get done. Today, however, we decided to make something just for the kids. I had been looking at different sensory activities and water table activities, and so I decided to combine the two together and asked Micah if he could make the boys a sensory table / water table. Basically, I think it's the same thing. And so he did. Aaron helped him. He was actually such a great helper in his little headphones. This was the first project we completed where we felt like Aaron was actually fully helping, and he's been enjoying using his sensory table so much. He plays with it every single day, and making it was actually surprisingly easy. I compiled a whole video just full of step-by-step instructions on how to make it. I will link that in the description box below. If you have been following along for some time, maybe you've seen all the shots of our garden, maybe you've seen my harvesting videos, and then I'm probably guessing that you saw this really tall red plant that I always get asked what that is. And here it is. It is called amaranth. Maybe you know it. You harvest the seeds out of it, which is what we're doing here right now. You can also eat the leaves. It's like an all edible plant, but the seeds are what you harvest out at the very end of the season, and you can eat them a little bit like you would quinoa or another grain, except that supposedly they're a lot healthier. I actually don't know that much about them. It was in our permaculture design, and so we went and planted it. It was gorgeous, beautiful color, and so far we are really enjoying them. The whole process of harvesting the seeds was pretty messy, but we found a okay system that worked. We are just shaking them off into that massive strainer on a plastic box, letting them dry out, and then just storing them in jars. One thing I am constantly working on with our house is organization, decluttering, and minimalism. Many generations of people lived in our house and everybody left something behind, which on one hand is just so charming and beautiful, and I love finding little pieces of my family history in every nook and cranny of the house. On the other hand, it does very often get rather cumbersome. Sometimes we feel like we don't have space for our things, or sometimes I feel like I am just wading through stuff that I don't even know whose it is or what's it for. So I decided to declutter and minimize one area of the house as often as I can, preferably once a week. And today I am attacking my closet. I am using the Marie Kondo method of Does It Bring You Joy? If you haven't heard of that, go look it up. It's really simple, but there's a really fun documentary about it on Netflix. There's a whole book as well if you really want to get into it. But essentially, you just take each item and you really ask yourself, does this bring me joy when I wear it, when I look at it? If the answer is not a huge resounding yes, you get rid of it. It can be pretty drastic, but I've already done this several times. We have moved a lot during our marriage, so I know firsthand that the sense of freedom and lightness that comes with getting rid of a bunch of things is amazing. So here I am doing it all over again. I do have people that come to help us every so often. Earlier on in the video, you saw a lady that helps us around the farm, and once a week my sister comes and helps us with just cleaning the house, and sometimes she folds laundry as well. And so in order for this whole system that I created to actually be maintained by me and by other people, I decided to go all out, slightly OCD, and label every single shelf with what goes there. I bought this really old school label maker, which mostly works fine, but for my use, it's perfect. And I honestly really like it. So far, it's been about a month that I've had the system running now, and we are able to stick with it. Thank you so much for following along my day. Please hit the subscribe button to never miss a new video.